Hello, how the tech are you? This is our weekly tech show on Echoplex Media, where we talk about tech stuff, tech news, science news, random tech and science related stuff that we feel like talking about on this particular day. And I'm historian Matt, and I do a lot of science and tech news. Got a little science news. What else I got? I got tech news related to some ransomware stuff. So basically my two stories are: scientists are collecting dead birds and bats killed by renewables. And I'll talk about why that's important and a little info about that. And then the second one is victims are refusing to pay ransomware attackers, which is kind of a good thing. There's good reasons why that is happening. But you and the pink mic, what do you got?
All right, my name is HK Perrin. I'm a software engineer, and I cover software engineering news. And this week is a doozy. This week, the Linux Foundation has formed a new foundation called the Open Metaverse Foundation. So we're going to talk about that, what that means, and what their mission is. So over to you with the black microphone.
So I'm Dave. I'm the producer of this and every show on Echoplex Media, and that's why I sound exhausted. This week I'll be talking about Microsoft doing a stupid thing related to Davos and then firing some people. And then we'll be talking about how actually in a court of law, you cannot just post through it. Turns out you have to answer people's questions. And, I bet you know who that's about. Over to you, Matt.
All right. So my first story is scientists collect dead birds and bats killed by renewables. So they're basically scientists who do research on birds and bats are collecting all these supposedly dead birds and bats that are killed by renewables, mostly wind farms, of course, because those are the ones that seem to be killing all the birds and bats, supposedly. And it's important. This is kind of less a news thing. This has been going on for a while, more of a request for funding. So I have a link to the article in the show notes. So please go take a look at it. It's a long read. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there, and try to help them out with some funding there. I don't know if you can give directly to that or not, but they really want to learn more. They're trying to figure out what they can do with renewable projects to reduce the number of animals killed by that. So what can we change in wind farms to have them kill less birds? But alternatively, just having this big collection of dead birds and bats gives some valuable insight into the lives of these animals, like migration patterns and stuff like that. So windmills are obviously the big ones that are killing lots of birds and bats. They kill about hundreds of thousands of birds and bats per year. Solar actually kills less, but I think a number of people we've covered. I don't think in this podcast, but in another podcast, we covered actually the solar thermal installations are notorious for killing birds when they actually fly sort of in the range of those installations. But actually solar panels kill a number of birds by birds just kind of flying into them. There's actually another problem with solar panels. If you have a big solar panel farm, since they're a little bit reflective, most of the, light is supposed to be converted and absorbed and converted into energy, but they have glass on it. So it's a little bit reflective, and at the right angle to birds, it sometimes looks like a lake or something, and they can fly into them thinking that they're landing on a lake, and that kills a few. It's a little bit worrisome, but I wanted to cover this because this kind of came up in another thing I was doing this past week. But for my quiz, this is mostly for Dave because I already talked to Hunter about this. But do you know what the number one killer of birds is without looking at the notes?
The number one killer of birds is probably cats.
Yeah. Did you already look at the notes?
No, I just know that.
Okay, good.
That having your cats outdoors, it's like an argument against having outdoor cats is that they're going to kill a bunch of birds in your neighborhood.
Yes, that is true. And it's a surprisingly large amount because remember I said people are complaining about windmills killing birds. and they kill birds in the hundreds of thousands. Like all the windmills out there collected together kill about hundreds of thousands of birds. You know how many cats kill? That's per year for the windmills as well. But cats per year, do you know, Dave?
It's got to be more than that, hundreds of thousands. I don't know. Are you talking just in the United States or worldwide? Or
I think it's worldwide.
Do you remember what I guessed when you asked me this? I think I guessed somewhere in the hundreds of thousands, but you hadn't told me about the windmills first, right?
I think you guessed, I thought you guessed in the millions.
Oh, maybe I did. Yeah, I guessed in the millions.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess 600 trillion.
No, because I think that's probably would have been all the birds.
And then some.
Little high.
No, maybe 5 million in the United States, something like that.
Yeah. You're way, well, I don't know about in the United States specifically, but I think probably in the United States, way too low as well. The actual number for birds killed by cats worldwide per year is a little over 1 billion.
Whoa.
Well, actually, it's in my notes from the article, it says 1.4 to 3.7 billion per year. So when people complain about windmills, it's like many orders of magnitudes difference between that and cats. So, and you don't even, and it's not like we should get rid of cats. We just, if you keep your cats indoors or more, keep more cats indoors, you'll save lots and lots of birds, way more than if we like kept 1% more cats indoors, we would save more birds than like 10 times or 100 times the number of birds killed by windmills. So
what I don't understand is there like a bird shortage that people are worried about? Like, isn't it just
cats are,
it kind of just happens,
causing a lot of problems. But windmills, not that much. The second most, and I wanted to put this in there because it's a little more similar to actual windmills, but buildings are the second top killers of birds. Quite a bit less, but still a lot, with about 600 million per year. And I want to point it out because buildings are killing windmills for similar reasons. They're about the same height.
killing birds.
After what?
Killing birds.
Killing birds.
Yeah, I would like to see I'd like to see remember that BattleBots show, except it would be like the Empire State Building versus 3 windmills. That'd be a great, that'd be a great fight.
Killing birds, not windmills.
That would be very cool.
That's a whole other topic, but yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what you do about birds flying into buildings. At some point, there's the term or phrase, bird brain for a reason, right?
And not for nothing. I mean, I've been in just a house where a bird just flies into the window of the house.
Yeah, I do want to ask a question about this. You mentioned the solar thermal installations that kill birds when they fly in range. Are you talking about the ones that have that big array of mirrors that all point at the one central spot where it like makes molten salt or something?
Yep.
Yeah. Have you heard? I watched like a documentary or something on that, like some YouTube video on that. Have you heard the nickname that they have for when the bird flies through it and bursts into flames and falls to the ground?
I have heard it, but I don't remember what it is, and I'm pretty sure you told me what it is.
I think they call them streakers.
Streakers.
I think because they like burst into flames and then streak across the.
I'd call it a shooting
the
star.
Scariest one. Shooting star. That's the scariest one because there's like birds, like they can't. There's nothing to see there if they're just in range. I mean, they'd have to know what's going on to know if they flew in the range, they're going to burst into flames. But luckily, they're not very popular anymore because the solar panels are way more efficient now.
Yeah.
So the solar thermal is kind of getting turned down
for not as much as just buying solar panels.
Even though the solar thermal you can run at night, depending on the design.
Is there any human body count associated with the flaming birds in this scenario?
Not that I know of.
Because that'd be a weird way to go, right? Like you're just working at one of these installations, and all of a sudden this flaming bird just comes and takes you out. Like that game Angry Birds a little bit.
Yeah, I would
Matt's
assume
like, why
no
do I
one's
do
ever
this
been
show with these
killed
two
that way.
idiots?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, just one more question. No
Yeah.
mention of windmill cancer in any of this, right?
As far as I know, there's no windmill cancer. The birds are not getting cancer and dying. They're actually either
Hitting the
being
windmill.
struck by
Even the sound, the
hitting-
rear, even that doesn't do it.
Have you been near like windmills? Like they don't make that much sound.
Don't ask. I didn't. I've never heard it. I have on good
Fair enough.
authority that the windmills sound like rear. An expert in the field told me that.
Right. Of course.
All right, Matt, this is stupid. What's your next story?
Moving on to the next one. So victims are refusing to pay ransomware attackers. So payments to ransomware attackers fell from $766 million to about $457 million in 2022. I think that was the first one was 2021. Attackers. So what's happening then is attackers are switching malware strains more frequently. They're keeping more profit on mainstream crypto exchanges, which seems to me like a really bad idea. Since many of the attacks are originating in Russia, some government sanctions are having problems also. It's like victims can't actually pay at all if they're paying a ransomware guy in Russia right now. And then there's another stat that victims, the number of, or the percent of victims that pay fell from 85% in the first quarter of 2019 down to 37% in the fourth quarter of 2022. So this is a little bit weird, but basically these attackers ransomware attackers are just having more problems all around, making money doing this stuff, and that's a good thing, at least. But people are still getting attacked, and people are losing info. Cybersecurity analysis firm Coveware gives the following reasons. They think that investments in security and response planning has been paying off. So people are not getting ransomware as often and are able to recover from it a little better, or figure out ways to recover without paying the attackers. Also, improvements in law enforcement that only can go so far, but they've been doing a lot better in recovering funds and arresting attackers. And then finally, because of all these other things going on and people aren't paying as much, fewer payments are pushing attackers out of business entirely, thus just making less attacks to begin with. What do you guys think? This sounds like some good news to some extent.
Yeah, I think it's really good news. It's even though there's fewer payments, that does not mean you shouldn't be investing in a good backup solution. Always back up all your data.
Right. And importantly, too, is if you're running one of those backups that just syncs folders and then they encrypt that folder, guess what? Unless you have versioning on there where it like keeps every iteration of the file, you're just backing up the thing that they just stole from you. Basically, you're like making a copy of yourself getting owned. And so, so like you having a backup solution that syncs your files is good for if you make mistakes and delete things, but having another backup solution that doesn't do that, where you manually back up any mission critical data for your organization, is also very important. But then you have to remember to do it.
And if you have something like this, the little USB hard drive that you plug into your computer that you back up to, remember to unplug it once you're done, because if you get hit with a ransomware attack, it'll encrypt your backup too.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's still plugged in.
And depending on how you're set up, if you have a NAS, that could happen to you as well, network attached storage. So it's really important to, as HK was showing right there, either have a USB device that you pull yourself, but that doesn't really work for big organizations, or medium or even small business. You need to have some other solution that is either like manually triggered once a week that doesn't overwrite your old files, or something you have to have something that isn't going to just automatically overwrite what you previously had, because a lot of people are like, oh, I have a backup, and it's like, well, no, you're using sync thing, so that you may think you have a backup, but what you now have is 2 sets of encrypted files.
Yeah.
And
make sure it's wherever you're backing up to isn't always connected to your computer, basically, is what we're saying.
Or if you have something like that, make sure that's not your only backup. Make sure there's one, or if you do have that, just something that has versions of files, so that it's not overwriting everything. Something that's only overwriting the changes for versioning. And if you don't know what any of this means, hopefully you have somebody in your organization who does.
Yep.
Ask your techie friend what you should be doing to back up. Hopefully they'll help you.
And they'll tell you, you probably shouldn't be asking me because I'm not doing enough to back up my important files, because that's what every techie person I know would say. I mean, I have a pretty good backup solution. I have anything important goes on to Google Drive, and I do that manually for this organization because there's not that many files, and I don't keep things for that long. And then I have a NAS. And, if it's for you personally, you probably don't have to worry about ransomware anyway. There's no real money in going after an individual for ransomware, because most individuals, they don't back their stuff up anyway. So if their laptop crashes, they just lost all their pictures, or it's all on Google Photos and they didn't lose anything.
Yep.
Yeah, but it still could happen. And also there's other reasons to have backups. If your laptop poops out on you, it's good to have a backup, so you can just go buy a new laptop and copy all your files from your backup. Or if you delete something accidentally, it's good to have, like Dave was saying, versioned backups, so you can go back to, like, say you deleted it last week, you could go back to last week plus 1 day and then grab the file from that snapshot.
Right. That starts taking up a lot of space, but the average person doesn't need 5 years of it. The average person could get away with 90 days on that, if it's just you.
Yeah,
as an
but also the
individual.
average person doesn't have much stuff.
Right.
Even if it's taking up a lot of space, it's for them a lot of space is going to be like 100 gigs.
Right. Like I have a lot of stuff, but that's because right now I'm recording a video of us doing this. And then it gets it gets sent a bunch of places, and then it gets there's a bunch of different versions of this and audio. But the average person, in fact, this stuff probably doesn't hit them at all, because the average person is probably using Google Docs for any of their word processing. Like, what are they keeping? Like, if you have a photos folder, the average person probably has it backed up to one or more places. And if you get hit with this ransomware, it's not going to encrypt your Google Photos or your Amazon Photos. Your music's probably all backed up somewhere automatically, via iTunes or whatever you're using to manage your music. And real music aficionados probably have CDs or vinyl. And so, it's organizations that have to keep files locally for quick access to those files that get hit with this. And it's those organizations that haven't thought their backup strategy through very well.
Yeah.
I want to
one more thing before we go, though. I would say, if you don't have any backup solution right now, just go online and just Google cheap backup software or something, or just go to Costco and grab one of those hard drives, the USB hard drives that comes with backup software, because that's going to be 1,000,000 times better than having nothing.
Right. Or if you're fancy, get 2.
Yep.
I just want to point out, it's on topic, that cloud storage is not backup. They have been known to lose files, so just be aware.
Well,
it's fine if your backup loses files, as long as your main hasn't lost files. So,
right, but
the idea of the backup is that you have 2 copies, so if one gets lost, you still have another copy.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is some people just use cloud storage as their only thing, only version.
As their main?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't just use cloud. You should have a local copy and cloud.
The idea, the concept is called 3-2-1 backup. You can look it up. You're supposed to have 3 copies, 2 of them on premise and 1 of them off premises. That's the best backup solution.
Yeah, that's another thing is if you have your backup, if you're only backing up to a USB drive and it's in your house along with your computer, if something were to happen to your house, like if your house burned down or if it was robbed and they took your computer and that hard drive, those are all your copies. So, keep one of those drives in your car, maybe.
Or that would be the third one would be,
house.
or the offsite could be cloud.
Yeah.
The offsite could just even just be as simple as just Google Drive. Because most people don't have that much stuff. And the free Google Drive, you would be able to keep anything important. Also, like your phone has some of the stuff on it. And if something happens to your house, you're going to have your pictures and stuff. A lot of them you took from your phone anyway, and they're going to be on your phone. But again, like, I don't think the average, it's just a sad cyber criminal that would go after like your mom with ransomware. It's just like, that's just, unless you're a famous person.
But there are plenty of sad cyber criminals.
I think unless you're like a person of note, this isn't something you need to worry about as an individual. But if you are working in any technical capacity and in any organization that has, I don't know, even more than just 10 people, it's something to take very seriously. I guess now on to HK's story.
All right. So this week, I've got a really cool story about the Linux Foundation forming a new foundation called the Open Metaverse Foundation. What this is an attempt to build a set of open protocols and interoperable procedures and protocols that become the metaverse. So reading their vision statement, they say, quote, "We believe that there can only be one metaverse, and that is an open metaverse. To build the open metaverse will require cross-industry collaboration and cooperation to build open source software and standards that incorporate human-first design principles to create an immersive, interactive environment that is open, accessible, equitable, and safe for all." And then reading their mission statement, "Our mission is to foster a strong community." Oh, I forgot to unquote. So unquote and then quote. "Our mission statement is to foster a strong community of developers, engineers, academics, and thought leaders who will solve the difficult challenges of building the open metaverse through open source software and open specifications that enable portability and interoperability for an open, global, scalable world which supports interactive and immersive experiences for the benefit of any individual or industry." So basically what they're doing is kind of treating, unquote, by the way, kind of treating the idea of the metaverse as somewhat akin to the World Wide Web. When the World Wide Web was in its early days, people had these networks that could interact and talk with each other, but a lot of them were closed. And the World Wide Web being this open standard of being able to communicate and provide information to other people, that sort of revolutionized the internet and ultimately the world. So the Open Metaverse Foundation believes that the metaverse has the potential to do that. It has the potential to revolutionize the internet again, just like the World Wide Web did. And they want that to be an open revolution, just like the World Wide Web was. Be open and interoperable. So it's not just one company, it's multiple companies. Anyone can get into it. Anyone can innovate on top of it and create something that works with everyone else. So they don't want something like Meta, where, if you want to get into Meta's little closed bubble of a metaverse, Meta takes a cut. And they don't want this idea of like a metaverse controlled by one company.
Yeah,
So-
that based on where the term metaverse came from, that controlled by one company, I believe, is not how we're supposed to work anyways. Also, are they going to spend $1 billion and not even have legs?
I bet there's some
I
open
would
source
hope
developer out there who can make some good legs.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people getting pretty good at Blender these days.
Yeah. One thing I didn't cover, which I should read to you guys right now, is the interest groups in the foundation. So they call them foundational interest groups, And they have several, and they'll be focusing on specific topics. And these are users, transactions, digital assets, virtual worlds and simulations, artificial intelligence, networking, security and privacy, and legal and policy. So 8 different interest groups, designing protocols around these things, working with companies to have them be interoperable, basically trying to build out what the World Wide Web is, but for this new idea of a metaverse where things exist in 3-dimensional space, that you use something like a headset to interact with instead of 2-dimensional space like the World Wide Web is.
They could add 4 more and have 12 rules for the metaverse. Clean your virtual room. Sorry, everybody.
There's just like one button for that. Clean.
Oh, that's great. Actually, fantastic. Clean my studio. Bucko.
Well, hopefully, if they have these interest groups, I especially like that they have security included there, and maybe it'll be more secure by default than the web was.
Yeah. Security was like an afterthought in the original World Wide Web, because I don't think, the people who were developing it like didn't know how big it was going to be and how much of our economy was going to rely on it. It was like a fun thing for people to, I don't know, post pictures of cats and I don't know.
Yeah, like back in 1992, probably no one at CERN was thinking, man, this thing that we're designing right now is eventually going to like be the only way that people interact with their bank. Yeah. We better make sure it's secure. No, that was like like the fact that the World Wide Web has become what it has become is astounding considering what it started as.
I do wish maybe they would have had another name for it, just because metaverse is so closely tied in the mind of the public with the Meta Corporation. But also, like, I don't know, maybe they can hijack it.
Well, Meta hijacked it. Like metaverse, the term metaverse has been around for a long time, way longer than Facebook has been using it.
Right. Yeah, this is good. I'm surprised we didn't have something like this sooner, but also I'm not. I mean, it's probably been in the works for a lot longer than I know.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea, and I would love to see, some of these, like, I'm a huge fan of open protocols, like open web protocols. So I would love to see what kind of protocols come out of this and how you can build software on top of those to interact with each other.
It'll seem slow at first, like almost every open source thing like seems kind of slow at first, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, how'd we get here? That's what this is probably gonna. That's I imagine how this is gonna go too. A good example of that, I mentioned Blender before. Blender, the development on it seemed slow at the beginning, and then all of a sudden everybody woke up and it was like the #1 3D modeling software used by hobbyists to all the way into industry. And I hope that happens here. I hope some version of that happens here, where a company like Meta has to like kind of suck it up and follow the rules of the road or whatever, or obey these protocols, or they're not going to be able to draw people in just because there's the, if this gets ahead of the closed ones, that'll be good. Because in the past, a lot of open projects, even those that have ended up passing by their closed source rivals, they were playing catch up at the beginning. Like, for example, OBS that we're using right now, at the beginning for a while, they were playing catch up with apps like XSplit, and I forget the big one that everybody was using on a Mac. And it seems like in this case, it's early enough in the game that if enough good people get involved, and maybe there's like a killer app that interfaces with this that people are using, I feel like this can actually maybe get out ahead of everyone else and prevent the walled gardens from really being able to even build their walls.
I know walled gardens are pretty good at building walls.
Yeah, they are. So I guess I'm up next. I have two quick stories here. One is just a bad look. Microsoft's usually pretty good at their messaging as far as the tech companies go, but this was really stupid. One day they had Sting perform at the World Economic Forum at Davos. The next day, Microsoft, I mean, they didn't wake up. A company doesn't wake up, but whoever's job it was to decide if people were getting fired, woke up and fired 10,000 people after they paid Sting like $1 million to play at Davos. It's just a bad look. I know that 10,000 people, like that, you're not hiring them for a very long time for that $1 million at Microsoft. Some of those people were, making, $250,000, $300,000 a year, I'm sure. So it's not that they were going to be able to keep their job if not for Sting. It's just, could you have done these in a stupider order? And I just wonder what either of you have to say about this, or if either of you have any thoughts.
I mean, it's Davos because you kind of expect stupid stuff happening. But yeah, a lot of the tech companies now are getting hit by big layoffs. What was in the news recently, and I've been hearing a lot from some old friends, is Google also laid off. Like they're laying off like 12,000 people. So it's going around. But yeah, maybe not pay somebody a bunch of money to sing.
Right.
Yeah.
There are world-class DJs you could book for $10,000 that'll go out to Davos and spin your Microsoft event, and then you don't get this story written about you.
I mean, they probably laid off somebody who's doing DJ in their part-time. So
oh yeah, how many DJs did they lay off, and how many musicians did they lay off out of that?
They probably got a couple.
No, out of that 10,000 people, they're definitely laid off some musicians and people doing music in some sort of way. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Also, I think you don't have the article up anymore, but whoever came up with the title for that article they probably need to be laid off because it's a terrible title.
What? The tone deaf thing?
Yeah. The rest of it, tone deaf was fine, but then the rest of it didn't really fit with the first.
Oh.
It was
they probably hired Sting because he's a good singer, right? Is a dumb name for the article. Yeah. To be fair, though, the Register, while they're not afraid of throwing bombs, it's generally pretty dry, and maybe
true. Fair enough.
Maybe it's just a lot of dad jokes over there at the Register.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's sad to see the industry that I'm a big part of. And Matt, you've worked in tech, these big tech companies. It's sad to see the layoffs because I know several people who lost their job during all this. I had a friend that worked for Twitter, and Twitter laid off a bunch of people. So in his case, it was a good thing. I think I've talked about this before, but he was in good shape. But other people very much aren't. And it is it's sad to see.
Well, you just mentioned Twitter, so I guess maybe I'll
moving on. Okay,
maybe I'll move on here. It turns out you can't just post your way through it in a court of law, and a certain Blood Emerald heir is learning that pretty quickly here. If you remember, a couple years back, I think it was 2019. I should have done more research about this, but whatever. Elon Musk went on Twitter and said, "I'm going to take Twitter private. I have secured the funding at $4.20 a share," and he's getting hammered, just absolutely hammered in court on this stuff. I'm actually looking. There's video of it because people were talking about it. Funny enough, on Twitter. And actually, it was 2018, and he's trying to convince the court that it wasn't like a weed joke. And that that it was just because that was 20% more than Tesla's value at the time, and it's not working out so good. The plaintiff's attorney asked, "Did you just do this joke to impress your girlfriend?" Which is not something you would expect, one of the most powerful business people in the world to be asked in a court of law, regarding essentially market manipulation, right? You just don't expect that. It's an absolute shit show. And I'm just hoping that the video, because people are watching this video, I'm hoping it's out there somewhere because I will watch the whole thing on stream. This guy, he's up in there saying, oh, I did it because people were trying to short my stock. Wah, wah, wah. But like other people, like people shorting your stock, it's all in the game, baby. That's short selling is just part of the game, especially with a volatile stock like Tesla. And there's some of them shorts made a lot of money, didn't they? Like a lot of
recently,
money.
I think at that time they lost money because the stock price kept going up. But since then, they've definitely made a lot of money. Since Elon bought Twitter, the Tesla stock has not been doing too well. What was I going to say? He was trying to claim that, so he talked to like some Saudis or something, and that was him securing the funding, but there was like no agreement or anything like that.
The Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. He said he had a firm commitment from them to take Tesla private, but nobody can find any evidence that he was even talking to them about it.
That's even better. Yeah.
It's about fucking time that he's been grilled over this, because like the guy manipulates stock prices and he manipulates currency prices on his Twitter constantly. So, he's been, I think that he has committed, or he has at least done things that if they aren't committing a crime, they're very close. You know what I mean?
Yo, the plaintiff's attorney called him Mr. Tweet during the during the thing. Like, whoever this plaintiff's attorney is seems like he's doing a really good job from what I'm hearing, and he's like really kind of making this guy squirm. And throughout the entire history of Tesla, people have been accusing Elon Musk of using Twitter. Just Twitter, but they would maybe say social media and his public presence as a public figure to manipulate the stock of Twitter via his on the record, or to manipulate the stock of Tesla via his on the record statements about everything from the abilities that the cars are going to have in just 1 year that never pan out to this, we're taking it private. He was in there trying to say that he could cover taking Tesla private just with his SpaceX stock. And there's no world in which that could possibly be true. Even in 2018, I bet he has more. I bet today his SpaceX stock is worth more than in 2018. I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that it is. But was it that Elon, or was it the Saudis that you never actually talked to? Or were you just trying to pump your own stock price up? And I think it was him trying to pump the stock price of Tesla up. And I think that's going to be demonstrated here. And I hope they actually hit him with something. I hope it isn't one of these where, the SEC has found this and this and this, and they find Microsoft $6 million. It's like, oh, great, you just fined me a nickel. Thanks.
Yeah.
I hope I hope they actually hit him, because people who bought on that were stupid probably, and they were not paying attention. But not everybody who was financially tied into that was the one who pressed the buy button. There are mutual funds, hedge funds, teachers unions that probably had stock in Tesla. Any number of organizations probably had this in their portfolio, and the people who got hurt at the bottom weren't the ones pressing the button to buy.
Yeah.
But also, defrauding stupid people is still defrauding people.
Oh yeah. It's still fraud if the other person's an idiot. You're absolutely right. In fact, I would suggest it's more wrong if you figured out the other person is stupid to then take advantage of them.
Yeah.
But it's just a pattern of behavior from this guy. And I'm not entirely convinced that this is some kind of genius. I think this is a guy who got lucky and has been like using his sort of almost like Tony Stark mystique to manipulate people and to manipulate entire markets, not just his Tesla stock. You were mentioning it before. He manipulates cryptocurrency. HK.
Yep.
Yeah, genius. I'm not even entirely convinced he's modestly smart.
Right. And we don't even really believe in measurable intelligence around here in the way that a lot of people do. But I would like to measure his skull, actually, to see.
He seems to be fluent in at least one language, so at least he's conversationally intelligent, meaning that he knows how to maintain a conversation.
I thought you were going to say his language is the grift. I don't think he's going to be all...
So I guess he's fluent in 2 languages.
I don't think he's going to be all alms for the poor, but I mean, this court has sweeping powers. They could tell him that he can't be on the board of any company ever again as a result of like a judgment against him. It's not just money that they have the power. They have the power to like sanction his future behavior and his future ability to generate wealth.
Honestly, that would probably be good for society to keep him off the board of any company ever again.
Right. Be like, listen, you could take your bags of money and go away, and that's the only thing it's legal for you to do now.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, this is just a bunch of drama. And it's like, well, no, this is securities fraud, actually. People go to jail for this all the time. People go to jail for very small amounts of money relative to what potentially could have happened here. And it did pump the price of the stock up. And I don't know, did some of his friends engage in a pump and dump as part of this? Who knows?
Who knows?
Did he sell any stock after this? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that his friends didn't.
After. Yeah.
I believe you could figure that out, right? That's public information.
Yeah, figuring out whether or not he sold at like a peak after he did this is pretty easy. But then like trying to cross-reference, like, did his friends get rich off of it? That would be much more difficult. True. Because like, how do you decide who's his friend? How do you, that would be a whole investigation.
Well, that's kind of easy. I'm pretty sure he has no friends.
Well, he's friends with Peter Thiel again, actually, which is...
his business partners.
Yeah, his business associates, did they make money on it? Because I guarantee you that the teachers union fund probably got left holding the bag no matter what happened here, right? Little man pays, as the saying goes. Yeah, I hope that this is the year that this guy gets knocked down a couple pegs, and that not just U.S. courts, but hopefully courts in other countries go after him for his behavior, because this isn't just an issue in the United States. People in other countries invest in Tesla stock. So if something happens here, what's to say the EU doesn't trail the U.S. courts and file a similar complaint, or even Japan? Who knows? Australia, anybody, Canada could do it, because there are going to be, if it's found that people were defrauded in the United States, well, ain't just Americans investing in the U.S. stock market. So this could have a cascading effect. The other thing that could happen, as has been the case with him in almost every one of these things, is that nothing happens to him, which is...
Yeah, unfortunately.
And the cynic in me thinks that that's at least 50% likely, that just nothing happens.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's our show. I'd like to end it on a positive
that wonderful note.
I guess I'll read the show out this week, if that's okay with everybody. I'm good at this kind of thing. Thanks everybody for listening to our tech show. This is called How the Tech Are You? We try to put this out every Wednesday, but being who we are, it doesn't always come out Wednesday. Just subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. You'll get it. We have some new stuff in our swag shop. That's at eplex.store. And there's, of course, a logo shirt for this show, but there's also a lot of other fun stuff in there. And I've been thinking a little bit about other How the Tech Are You kind of merch for that. Maybe a mouse pad, right? People who watch this show might use a mouse. You can find out anything else you need to know about us at echoplexmedia.com, and have a great tech and week.